Ok, estamos live. So, hi everyone, welcome to another webinar from Soft Landing, in this case, Landing.Jobs. In this case, focused on the topic of optimizing talent acquisition and strategies for successful recruitment and compensation in Portugal. So, we will be focusing in Portugal, even though some of the things that we're going to address are obviously common in other places. But first of all, I want to present myself. So, I'm Pedro Moura. I'm Chief Growth Officer at Soft Landing and Landing.Jobs. Those are twin companies. I'm going to talk a bit about that in a minute. And today we have the honor of having with us one of our clients, Pedro Afonso, head of front-end and design at Systematic, which is someone that has a huge experience in creating a tech hub from scratch in Portugal, and is going to be sharing that experience with us. But Pedro, please, more than me presenting you, why don't you present yourself to the audience?
Hi everyone. Thanks for the invite. First of all, Pedro Moura. And Landing.Jobs, Soft Landing for being here. I'm Pedro Afonso, tech lead and head of front end and design in Systematic. I've been working. I'm an engineer, full stack. Been working for about 15 years in the industry on startups and big corporations. Currently. So I've been focused mostly on the full stack, and at some point in my career, I started focusing on front end, but also with a lot of focus on creating products from scratch, and with this also assembling teams for success, to building successful products and to bring ideas to materialize some ideas into some tech products as well. I've been working in MasterCard before, also HBO Go, Under Armour. These are some of the companies I've worked before, and currently I'm at Systematic, building a platform.
Don't forget Crowd Process, We were both in the beginning of the startup movement in Portugal in 2012. And those were great times.
Very true. We were actually just next. The rooms were next to each other.
Yeah.
We were starting this startup movement in Portugal together. It's impressive how we circle back and we are here again.
11 years again, and a lot has changed. Well, let's try to give a brief glimpse of all this to our audience. Yeah. So the goal today is basically to make a small presentation, and I promise it's going to be small, with some data and some tips regarding soft landing in Portugal. And then we'll go and have this chat between the Pedros. So we are anonymous. Mm-hmm. This is cool today. But we also want, more than that, to have the interaction with you, with the audience, with everyone that's in that side, kindly watching us. Please put your questions, put yourselves in the chat regarding your comments, your feedbacks. Let's try to make this as interactive as possible, because that's where the most value comes. And you can also help us, go towards the information, the experience, the knowledge that you might be seeking from this webinar. So now I'm going to do a risky thing, which is sharing my screen. It's always something that Murphy is always on the corner watching. So let me try to do this in a way that does not hurt anyone. Okay, so this is it. So can you see my screen now? Pedro, only you can help me.
I can.
Okay, so cool. So basically this presentation, it's about showing some insights and then also some tips regarding how to win the tech recruitment battle. Most of the insights, or all the insights, are in Portugal. We also have data from other countries, but we are talking now about Portugal. And I hope that in that side, there are companies, international companies, that are considering coming to Portugal, Portuguese companies or companies that have come from abroad and are already in Portugal. So what is this about Landing.Jobs and Soft Landing? So Landing.Jobs is the original company. So we were born in that startup beginning in Portugal. And we are currently the tech recruiter leader in Portugal, even though we work for everywhere, with talent from everywhere, for companies everywhere. We have a huge community of pre-screen tech professionals. And recently, a lot of companies have started creating tech hubs in Portugal. And we have created a specific brand to support those companies in everything from A to Z, from having market information to setting up the company, to having employer of record services, visa services, managing payroll, etc., etc. So it's really trying to soft the landing of companies like Systematic, for example, in Portugal, to take the most of our market. So this is kind of the union between both. In a brief glimpse, so we try to provide, as I've said, market information, then the soft landing setup, then everything that we call the HR ops and PO, which is basically management and things related to management and bureaucracies, and tech recruitment. And in tech recruitment, it's Landing.Jobs that plays the major role. So we are twin companies, or basically the same company, but two brands. And the goal is to provide a one-stop shop partnership to land your business in Portugal, with a special focus on tech, but not exclusively. So the data I'm going to show you, it's from a report Landing.Jobs has been doing for 5 years now, called the Global Tech Talent Trends Report. We're going to share the link to download this report. I dare to say that this is the most complete and the most detailed and interesting report on the tech talent market in Portugal. I invite you all to download it and to take a peek at it. That's very interesting information. So, but the goal is, how do you win the tech recruitment battle, especially in Portugal? For that, you need more than ever, because talent scarcity is around the corner. There's a lot of competition for tech professionals. You need to know the market that you're operating at so that you can define the strategy to get your people, the tech professionals you need for your company. So the first thing that comes apart is that around 70% of all the tech professionals in Portugal reside in the biggest metropolitan areas, namely Lisbon and Porto, and with Lisbon having a huge expression, more than half of all the tech professionals in Portugal. But as we will see in this small presentation, it's also the place where the salaries are higher. So you have this kind of relationship between having office, not having office, being in Lisbon, being in Porto, being in another region. These are things that you need to consider when you are considering coming to Portugal, at least if you're considering creating a tech hub here. The second thing, it's cultural, and it's that Portuguese people don't really like a lot to work as contractors. So very different from countries like Poland or Brazil or Nigeria, where a lot of people, probably more than half, work as contractors. In Portugal, people like to have a work contract. This is mostly cultural, it's generational, it's from the family, that tells people all the time since their infancy, you get a safe job, my son. So this sticks, even though nowadays probably the best option in rational economic terms would be working as contractor, but still Portuguese, at least the Portuguese-born tech professionals residing in Portugal, are very suspicious. So that's a data. One of the things that you also need to understand is that Portugal is kind of a true market velocity in terms of the companies where people work, tech professionals. So on one side, you have the newer companies, the startups, the scale-ups, the nearshore companies, some of them coming from abroad and creating their companies here, or some from Portugal. And then you have the more traditional sectors like the tech consultancy firms, the corporates, and the small and medium enterprises. The thing is that the small and medium enterprises, corporate and tech consulting, they are around 70+% of the market. But one thing that differs a lot between these companies is that startups and scale-ups pay, in average, much higher wages than the other more traditional firms. So the more local traditional firms, they are struggling to be competitive regarding at least the salary part. But it's not just the salary, because in some of these companies, the work culture is not the best. So people are flocking more and more to startups and to scale-ups and to companies that open their tech hubs here in Portugal. So when you consider defining a recruitment strategy, it does not just suffice to say, yeah, we are a great company, let's put some job posts outside and people will come. You need to really understand where you are going to get your people from, because that's a fundamental part of the strategy. So you need to think before you act. You need to have the information to be able to make informed decisions. Obviously, nowadays, there's a huge, let's say, movement towards people, again, leaving these more traditional companies and going to more modern companies. One of the things that is happening in Portugal also is that the hybrid work mode has been increasing in relation to the full remote. Full office job, it is at the 6% since 2 years ago, so it will not increase. But what we have been seeing in the data is that the hybrid is gaining expression, and empirically, we also see both companies and tech professionals wanting to have some kind of flexible, but also mixed with some office setup in terms of work. Usually in the most common mode, it's 2 days per week in the office and the rest just spread around, but with flexible choice in terms of days and in terms of schedule. What we hear more and more from tech professionals is that flexibility in terms of schedule and days is more important than really having 1 or 2 days that they need to go to the office. They even like to be with people personally. Career drivers. So Portugal is still a country in Europe where the average salary is lower than most of the other countries until we get to, the Eastern countries, of course. But regarding all the other, regarding France, Italy, even Greece, regarding France, well, UK, Germany, and etc. is not important even to go there. Salary and benefits is still a very important thing for people in Portugal. But the interesting things, more than this, which I think it's kind of common sense, it's that the work-life balance and the career progression have been increasing. So people are valuing this more and more, and especially after the pandemic. So when you define a recruitment strategy, you also need to try to mix in that what is going to be your employer value proposition. How are you going to really ensure that people get what they want for these things? Because, for example, if you think that recognition status or selling the impact of people's work in society, these are things that are pretty much in a low value in people's minds, okay? So this data, which is average, so average is, it's the average of a lot of different people, but the average fits this. An interesting thing also is that more and more companies are striving not only to recruit the people that they need, but to retain the people that they have, and obviously nowadays with the competition that exists in tech, this is a huge factor because it's very easy, for example, for a foreign company to come to Portugal and hire someone paying a huge wage, much more than they earn here, to work remotely across borders. So what should you basically do to try to increase? Well, what we have discovered in this report is that the single most important factor is if you hire people with children. These are the most stable. This means what it means, of course. It depends on the experience, the age of the persons, but it's not even being married, it's having children. That increases the tenure date a lot, and this is obviously pretty much important. But obviously, I would dare to say that, for example, the culture of the company in itself, which is something that we cannot measure objectively, at least not with these models, probably matter much more than people having children or not. But again, this is our data, and it should be interpreted like that. One very important thing about the Portuguese market, for the ones that do not do it well, is that it was kind of growing, but in a very stagnant way since, I don't know, ever. I'm a computer science engineer myself. I graduated in 99, started working in 99. And I can tell you that the entry salary for someone out of college in 99, it's the same as today. In my case, it was 1,100 euros net. Today, the same, or sometimes less is paid. So the Portuguese tech market in terms of work was pretty much undervalued. Something very drastic happened from 21 to 22. And this has an explanation. It's very simple, is that after the pandemic, with the advent of the remote work everywhere and all the possibilities, a lot of foreign companies looked to Portugal and saw very good tech talent in terms of tech skills, in terms of English skills, in terms of communication, work ethic, at a very good price. So they just say, hey, let's hire these guys and have them working remotely with a very good wage for Portugal. And this has basically been a huge movement. I can tell you that, for example, last year, we had around 18.6%, I think, of all the tech professionals in Portugal working remotely across borders to companies in another country. It has increased this year to 22.4%. So it's almost 1/4 of the whole workforce, IT workforce in Portugal, is working abroad. And as we will see, I think, in the next slide or not, but I'll tell you right away. The main thing is that the salary premium of someone working remotely across borders for such a company in another country versus working for a company in Portugal, whatever it is, it's 60% more. So people working remotely across borders earn 60% more gross annual salary in average than people working for a company in Portugal, okay? So obviously, this has basically made this huge bump from 21 to 22, and unprecedented 36.5% growth that has stabilized more this year, because a lot of excesses were also committed during 2022, and it was not only in Portugal, it was everywhere. All the layoffs that existed after this, and we are still suffering from that, have come basically from a lot of very exaggerated attitudes from companies. As I've said in the first slide regarding demographics, Lisbon is where most people are in terms of IT professionals, but it's also where people earn in average the most, okay? So you need to factor the number of people with the average salary, but this is large numbers. You need to drill down this a bit, to basically define what will your strategy be. If you have, for example, an hybrid remote strategy, you can get people from Lisbon, for example, from 1 hour timeline around Lisbon, you go until 100 kilometers if needed be. So being a small country, it allows for a good mix of policies regarding work, commuting, and also salary. Because if you are 100 kilometers from Lisbon, in terms of the people that you hire, they will obviously earn much less than people in central Lisbon. Well, I'm not going over this just to give you a full knowledge of what we are talking in terms of average salary. So what we see is that if you want a junior in Portugal, junior developer, non-management is developers, management is tech management, CTOs, Scrum Masters, project owners or managers, team leaders also. The rest, it's back-end, front-end, data scientists, DevOps. So a junior developer in Portugal costs, in average, 24,000 euros gross annual salary. It's not employee cost, okay? For the employee cost, it's around 30% more because you have to put some more taxes. When you go to the intermediate level, you have someone earning in average 39,000 euros in gross annual salary. And when you go for the seniors, more than 6 years, around 50,000 euros. Please notice that these values have also the people that are working remotely cross borders. If you take these persons out, which are, as I've said, usually in average 60% more, these values will be a lot lower. So if your strategy is to come to Portugal and hire people, not the ones that are working remotely cross borders, you'll need to factor in values that are lower than this. Okay? Well, I'm not going over this. It's basically the report that you will be able to download. There's a lot of detail, including this average salary and variation from last year by experience and job role. No, I'm not. This is very detailed also for tech management roles. But very quickly to finish this part, in terms of the tips that I can provide you, but I guess we'll be going on after this presentation, you need to define a recruitment strategy. So just going, crazy west through the job market won't work unless you are the best brand as a tech employer in the world. But otherwise, you need to define a strategy. You need to understand your employee value proposition. You need to really be selective in a way that you define your approach. You should have an employer branding plan because it's very important for you to be considered as a good tech employer in the market. And that good depends. You might seem like a good tech employer for some people and not for other people. This is called choosing who you want to be, not trying to please everyone. Candidate experience is very, very important. For you to have a notion, for example, in Landing.Jobs, we demand from all our clients that they do not ghost candidates, that they respond in a timely manner, that everyone gets an answer. And this is very important because every people that passes in your application funnels, even if they are not chosen, they should tell everyone, their friends, that the experience was very good. And unfortunately, well, it didn't work for them, but this is very, very, very important. One other important thing is that, and we always say this, don't greenwash diversity and inclusion. There are a lot of companies that are doing diversity and inclusion and having budgets for this. That it's, bullshit. They are really not, striving to apply some method to really not having a bias in the selection of people in the beginning, in the middle of the application funnels, So there's a lot to be done here, but please don't greenwash it because it's very important for your company to have diversity and inclusion. And it's not because it's nice. It's because your company will be more competitive. Recruit talent in other countries. Even if you consider Portugal, for example, we have 230,000 tech professionals in Portugal. About 1/4 of these are working for companies remotely cross borders. But Portugal as a country is a platform for 2 million tech professionals in other countries. For example, we work mostly with people from, besides obviously Portugal and Spain, South America, Africa, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Okay, there are lots of people that want to come to Portugal or want to work for companies in Portugal. Another thing is, if you do not know the local markets, in this case, for example, the Portuguese, don't think that your tech recruiters can come here and just hire people like hell. Portuguese people are very suspicious. If they make a question like, hey, what's the impact in the net salary of this change in the gross salary, and your tech recruiter doesn't know how to answer it, they will get suspicious and probably they will want to leave the process. So use tech recruiters, either your internal or RPOs, with local knowledge. It's very important. And concluding, avoid quests for unicorns. It's very important when you go for an hiring plan to be able to adapt also the profiles that you have, because probably when you want the unicorn, that person that knows the technology A, B, C, and then this level of experience in this type of companies, probably you'll not be able to get them. Understand that a good developer that knows one language will be adaptable and will adapt itself for another language probably very easily, So it's more important, for example, for you to have someone with good attitude than someone that has a deep knowledge of years and years and years of that specific language. This is very important, because when you consider the cost per hire or the opportunity cost of not meeting the hiring goals, you should really be more flexible. And one thing that we are seeing in the last year is that tech recruiters are more risk averse when they make or when they support the hiring decisions. Okay, so it's very important for tech recruiter teams and the hiring managers, people that will have in the end the persons, to communicate. TR team saying, hey, we do not have exactly that guy, but we have this. Would it be possible to consider this? No, etc. To continuously optimize the process. This is very, very important. Not having separate teams, having things together, people talking. The collaboration is very, very important, because tech recruitment should not be a barrier into the company. It should be a way into the company. Not everyone will enter, but they should not be a wall. Okay. Well, this being said, and after boring the hell out of you all, I think, okay, I've stopped sharing now, I think, right? Okay, so It's just me and Pedro. Pedro, now let's go for a small chat. Cool? So I had some topics here, and we can go in exchanging data also from what we have seen in order that because the most important part now is it's a real experience, and to pass that experience to people. And the first thing, even regarding this thematic, but you can also go for other previous experience, is what were the main reasons, for a company like this thematic that was created from scratch here, right? As far as I know, even though it had obviously a past and founders, etc. What were the main reasons to create a company like this in Portugal in this way?
So this thematic is a company that started in London. The main offices were in London, but one of the founders, the CTO, was actually Portuguese. With these, the CTO also hired some Portuguese tech talent as first employees. I'm one of those. So we have the two tech leads. The more senior tech leads, they are Portuguese, and from the beginning, the strategy was to create a team, a development team in Portugal. The factors were one of the factors is obviously the founder being Portuguese, knowing the work culture is pretty good. The time zone to London was also the same, so this played a huge role. Portugal has a world-class education and developers, and you can tell that by knowing that a lot of Portuguese developers actually work remotely for abroad to other parts of the world. So these were some of the factors. Definitely, the quality of the resources played a huge role.
And what role do you think, because sometimes we have all this thing, okay, the salaries in Portugal are usually lower than in other places, but we don't really want to say that because we don't want to sell Portugal as a place to build tech teams or tech companies by the price, but by the quality. But obviously, this is always a factor to consider.
Yeah, definitely. So the talent is great, and the cost is lower than a lot of places in the world, namely London, which is very high. The value for some talent in London is much higher. I wouldn't say Portugal is cheap because it isn't, and the salaries are rising as you showed, as you've shown. But yeah, it's definitely a cost as well. Like value for money, it's a very good strategy in terms of value for money. That was one of the factors as well.
One thing, and now being a bit provocative because we have to spice things up a bit always, right? But one thing that I usually tell to companies that are looking, considering Portugal to create a tech or to come here, is listen, do one thing. Don't create teams with only Portuguese people. you know, because they tend to have this culture thing of, you know, they abide a lot by the group, you know, they don't defect the group, and this sometimes creates a work environment which is kind of, okay, some things start not being said, some criticism not being done, and this can rotten a bit even the productivity in the company. Would you tend to, because you have experience also in Portugal and outside, I always say, you know, Portuguese are the best when they are in the middle of other cultures. That's where they really excel. You know, would you agree with this?
I tend to agree. So I think the like the work environment in Portugal, in a lot of corporate, like big corp, is not the best, or consultancies. So I feel like a lot of the talent that's working there wants they actually want to get away from these kind of environment. But a lot of them also don't have another experience in other places with actual great environments to work on. So mixing things up and mixing people. We actually have a mixed team. So we have a lot of Portuguese. There's a lot of Brazilians as well. We have someone from Ecuador. So we have multiple nationalities in the team, although they all reside in Portugal right now in the Portuguese hub. But yeah, I think the most important thing in the environment and work environment is really to bring people with different experience, because you cannot you can leverage the best work environment from people that had that experience before, and then kind of bring that experience over to the people that came from a more toxic environment or something that exists in other companies. And I think here, to be honest, my experience is that the best work environment wins every time, because people just want to have fun working. They just want to be productive. They just want to make stuff happen. And when you mix things up, good things will happen for sure.
But for example, I was kind of saying a while ago about greenwashing, diversity, and inclusion. Do you also, in my experience, but again, everyone has a different experience, but do you really think that diversion, for example, in this sense, not just in terms of experience, but in terms of backgrounds, in terms of personalities even, that these really creates a positive competitive factor in teams, in companies? Because you are a leader, right, in a company, you know, so you should feel these things, you should know these things.
Yeah, so we strive for talent, and the more diverse, the better. I wouldn't say like it's you need to be diverse to succeed. Well, sometimes that you can't be diverse, but you should try at least. I don't feel the opposite. I think I would go more for the opposite. If you are diverse, it doesn't mean you won't succeed. So I would go for that. But it also doesn't mean that if you are diverse, you will succeed. Yeah, exactly. But diversity is just a benefit. I wouldn't say it's like it will hold you back for sure.
Okay. Okay. Please, Veronica, we'll answer those questions for a while from now. Okay, but please keep posting them. We'll get to those. Okay. But now changing a bit the topic and going to a thing that has not so much to do with tech professionals, but more with decisions, especially for companies that open tech hubs in Portugal. There is always one debate, you know, and decision that needs to be made when a company decides to come to Portugal, which is, am I going to start by opening a legal entity, by incorporating in Portugal or not? You know, and one of the things, for example, that most of companies always tell me is that what are the pros and the cons of doing that? And what I say is that, listen, it's very easy to open a company in Portugal, but then you need to pay attention to all the regulations, to the compliance matters, to all the communications, to the accountant, to the legal, to the tax authority, to the work authority, to everything. And that will divert your attention in a moment where you really should be focused on getting things to work. So you can use an employer of record solution until you get to a certain value. And then, okay, you have a team big enough, you have passed the initial trial, let's say trial period. Okay, will it work in Portugal? Yes, it's working. And then you can go for it. But in the beginning, unless you really need to, you should not go to open a legal entity. And I know that you had an history similar to this, right?
Yeah, we actually started right away by setting up the company. It's definitely so in when we started, it was not that common, this employer of record situation. I think it's becoming much more popular
So
since
during the
that increase in
pandemic,
the salary and after the pandemic with the remote work opening. I feel like right now it's like a standard
yeah,
in Portugal. Even the developers are much more open to it. That's what I feel, and I think that plays a big factor. When we started here in Portugal creating our team, that was not kind of the standard. And the developer, I to be honest, we choose from the start. We wanted to
translingual
be,
entity.
yeah, we wanted to have a base in Portugal, like long term, so that the tech leadership was already Portuguese. We know where we were going. We set it up. We actually went through it. It was not the easiest part because it was during COVID times. We actually set up
Yeah,
our business in Portugal right in the middle, first half of 2020, right in the middle of COVID. But as our lawyers did most of the paperwork, and that was kind of easy with them. And one of the reasons we found that having a legal company was nice. It was we had the direct company employee connection. We wanted to have our own team, so that was one of the capital that that we were trying to build, and we were thinking about that when we wanted to create
yeah.
the employee connection as well. But it's definitely a employer of record is a great way to start. And if you want to go, if you want to move fast, start a team without needing to wait for any paperwork, bringing people in, assembling a team, getting productive. It's just the way to. It's like the MVP when you're talking about a product. It's just
Yeah.
the MVP for your team in a certain location. So yeah, I think it
It's
works really
very
well.
soft landing-ish, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
So
but grabbing on this topic, I wanted to ask you also something.
mhm.
How was the beginning? You already said that you were in the middle of the COVID storm. When you
Yeah.
created the company. But understand. Obviously, you are Portuguese, and with the other Pedro, the CTO, it's also Portuguese. So you
Hmm.
knew a bit about the market. But I think that you were not living abroad at that time. If
I
I
was, yeah, I
Okay,
was, yeah.
so how did you okay, let's understand the market, let's assemble the recruitment process, the salary packages, what people do we need, where to get them. How was that turmoil, that beginning, that inception?
It was hard because most of us were living abroad in London at that time, and we actually had the help of Landing.Jobs for our recruitment strategy, understanding the like the salary intervals. We had to go for the market, understand how it was. A lot of us worked. A lot of us. So we were Portuguese, but most of our connections were everywhere in the world but
Yeah,
Portuguese because we were working remotely for a long time as well, or in London and so on. And we actually had a lot of colleagues from Portugal in London as well, but we didn't have a lot of people in Portugal. So the first thing we tried to go for referrals, and there was some time that both from a point of view of talent because we needed some skills that we didn't have on our referrals, or because we have just ran out of referrals,
yeah,
we actually started working with Landing.Jobs to kind of create some job profiles, uh, putting ourselves out there. We were kind of operating very early stage in a kind of a stealth mode, so it was hard because people didn't really know what we were doing. One of the things we tried, and we still do, was to connect our candidates directly with the founders so they can understand where the company was coming from, where did the idea
yeah.
originate, what were the goals, to kind of create these connection and empathy between like what we were doing and the excitement of building a new product with the candidates. But yeah, finding the salary intervals, understanding what people were looking for. Uh, understand Another thing that we were bringing to Portugal was kind of, we are a fintech, we started as a fintech, very focused on the market for hedge funds, building a product for hedge funds, and this was not that common in Portugal as well. So this was
It's
good in a
isn't.
way. Exactly. So this was good in a way because we kind of excited some people to work in this area that was kind of very interesting. But at the same time, we had to find people with some experience in the area, even though there was not a fintech market. So it was interesting and Landing.Jobs helped us kind of find the persons with the talent we needed, even though the fintech was not something popular in Portugal, and it's not, yeah, as you said. So yeah, I think in the end it worked well. Yeah,
I think
I think in the end it worked pretty well. But it was tough. It was kind of it took some time to ramp up the team, but we eventually ramped up in a few months, and yeah, we're actually sharing the office as well with Landing.Jobs as well at this point, and we are there sometimes. So yeah, you see us, we are a few handfuls of people.
And you have been growing. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
You had a good thing, right? Because in terms of recruitment, you had Portuguese people that knew Portuguese people. So the part about the local knowledge, I think that might, even though you have to pass the difficulties of relearning the market, let's say, but in cultural terms, which is always something which is very important in terms of empathy and the ability to do things, I believe that might be important. And tell me something, at that time or later, did you have any kind of concern in a good sense, about things like employer value proposition or employer branding, or it was just, do it as you go?
I think we were very do it as you go at that time. So we were very early stage in stealth mode, and most of the things we did were like I think they were natural because we knew, okay, we are in stealth mode. We need to make people understand what we're doing. So let's connect people with founders. Let's show off what we have already. We are also fintech, so this excited people. We knew that was important, probably not by these names, but we didn't really create this kind of strategy from ground up. We were also a super small team, right?
Yeah.
We were founders and a few tech leads. We were kind of 5 people team at that point, so not anyone directly fully assigned to HR.
Okay.
So we were all.
It was okay. Now that's cool. That's really starting from scratch, bootstrapping things out and just going. Yeah, the startup way.
Yeah.
And tell me something. As I think that you have already said it, but you haven't considered only talent from Portugal, right? So besides some part of the company coming from scratch from other places, you also considered hiring people from other places. But how did you do it? How did you source these people? How did you find them? Did you go for relocation? Can you tell us a bit about what you have done?
Yes, so we considered talent from other places, but mostly resident in Portugal. So we went for relocation in the cases that happened. I think it happened only once,
Okay.
And it was through Landing.Jobs when a candidate. Most of we have other people that is not Portuguese. They are Brazilian, for example. They were already resident in Portugal, and most of them also came through either referrals or Landing.Jobs platform. But yeah, we are open. We try to. So we have these very strong values of having like a London base and a Portuguese base, and we try to stick to the Portuguese landscape. And even in Portugal, we have people from everywhere. We have a resident in Porto, a resident in Azores. We have people from everywhere in Portugal, not only specific to Lisbon. But we do feel like Portugal is one of our bases, and even if they are not Portuguese, we are considering people living in Portugal for sure. It's also becoming, like, Portugal is also becoming a huge hub for developers and digital nomads coming to Portugal. So that has a lot of benefits for
It has.
digital nomads, and so it's impossible not to consider that as an option as well.
Well, and we as
there's
a
a lot of
country
talent coming in.
really need more talent to come.
Exactly.
And tell me something. You have talked about having people in Lisbon and in Porto. I know I see you guys in the office, obviously, sometimes working, sometimes celebrating, which is also very cool.
Yeah.
But can I ask you, what's your work mode in terms of hybrid, remote, especially having people displaced? Well, Portugal is a very small country, but Porto and Lisbon is still 3 hours in distance, right?
Exactly. Yeah, so we have these two bases. The company itself, we assume ourselves as hybrid, but the Lisbon hub, the Lisbon base is mostly remote. We do have some people in Lisbon, and with the office in Lisbon, sometimes we join together, sometimes one day a week, other times when the founders come to Portugal. So it's very, the cadence changes. And then, but we still have a base where we join together, and sometimes we are there every week or something. But we have people in Porto, in Açores, as I told you,
The Açores.
across.
I didn't get it. Yeah, cool.
Even in Açores, it came through Landing.Jobs actually. He came through Landing.Jobs. We recruited through Landing.Jobs.
It's cool.
So yeah, we have so we end up being very remote and distributed. All our work practices encompass remote working, and we welcome all the remote work practices in the team, although we sometimes join and celebrate in the office together.
Yeah, that's cool. Tell me something, and you have been accompanying the Portuguese market since at least 2020, right? When you came here back. How do you see has been the evolution of this market until now, and what would you, in terms of futurology, see for the forthcoming years? Few years, of course. Let's not go to big stretches.
So from 2020 now, I've noticed a huge increase in remote working. I felt like a lot of my past colleagues or friends, even outside of tech, they start working remotely to companies abroad. So this is definitely a trend. I also see a lot of talent coming to Portugal, which is really incredible with this kind of trend with digital nomads and the benefits and so on. And I think that's amazing. We have a lot of talent here. And I think that talent will stay in Portugal for a long time, and it will keep coming. Portugal is a sunny and bright country, and with all the benefits it has for people, for foreigners here, I think it will just continue. I can also see that there is a trend of decentralization. So Portugal was always, so I'm from the countryside of Portugal, and I've lived my childhood hearing about Portugal needs to decentralize, politics telling that, and it never happened. I think it's becoming. I'm becoming to see that. It's a few years down the line. I don't see it happening in the next 2 years, but I definitely see people landing in Lisbon, but after some time starting to go and to explore other areas, and this happens both with the Portuguese and with the
foreigners,
with the foreigners that come to Portugal. So I see some trends in decentralizing, and I think remote work is here to stay. With all of these trends, I cannot see companies not leveraging talent just because it's not in the place where the office is. So I think it's a matter of just adapting to the so transport always improved from cars to trains to planes, and now it just improved communication, and now the communication is through internet. You just don't need to move anytime anywhere. So I see that happening as well.
Okay. And now, not regarding the tech professionals, but regarding companies. We have seen a huge increase in the speed or the accelerated movement of companies coming to Portugal, especially, after the start of the war in Ukraine, when the inflation started kicking things. It's amazing. Well, sometimes for bad motives, like the war, of course. But there has been a huge spike in companies coming to Portugal to create tech hubs. Have you felt that? And if yes, what would be the effects that you feel on this movement?
I did feel I felt it more on the side of my friends and developers starting to work abroad, and
Okay.
that's definitely a sign that the companies are coming. I see a lot of companies wanting to source talent from where it is, and we have it in Portugal. One of the reasons might be just reducing costs because interest rates are higher, inflation is higher, so nearshoring becomes an option. I'm not sure that that's the root cause, but it might be. And I think in the end it's great because we will have people working in interesting projects. Companies are working here. We will have people in Portugal learning from these companies. I think I see the salaries raising a lot as well, as you mentioned. That there has been that bump in 2020. I felt very curious to see that in your charts because I did felt it, but I've never seen any source like that very specific to it.
When I
I
saw that
definitely felt.
when I saw that bump in the 2022 report, I thought,
Uh-huh.
sorry about my French, fuck, this is all wrong, man. But now it was right. 2023 confirmed that there was really a huge spike from 2021 to 2022.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now let me do this kind of flick flack here, and try to go
Uh-huh.
directly for the audience and grabbing on Mila's last topic and grabbing on the question by Veronica
That's
Marques
good.
that basically asks what's the opinion that we have about how medium-sized Portuguese companies can compete with international companies hiring people here to work remotely cross borders, especially obviously taking into effect the salary difference, etc., etc. What do you think about this? Because this is, I know, a huge challenge for a lot of Portuguese companies, especially the small and medium businesses.
Yeah, I think it will be a huge challenge. I do feel like we have a very so we have a lot of people coming in as well, like from foreign companies, from foreign countries that are also filling that gap. I feel like maybe some of the foreigners that come fill the gap for the small medium Portuguese companies, and those migrate to remote. I think it will be hard to source talent, but there might be some time of to adapt to these changes. I feel like it will be very hard for some of the local companies to face these shortage of talent or migration. It's almost like a migration, right? An exodus
Yeah.
of the people from one type of company to the other. But I do feel like those opportunities will be there and will attract other people, and eventually it will even out. Uh, my I think that will help if the local companies also start considering more and more remote working, even inside of Portugal, because as you mentioned and very well, the salaries are very different from Lisbon or in other places of the country. So in order to maintain the salary, they might need to do remote for other areas in the country where real estate is lower cost and the cost of living is much lower. Uh, and eventually, with the rising of the salaries, it will all in the end, ideally, and I'm kind of very positive minded person, ideally that money in the salaries will go to the economy and will reach the companies, and companies will be able to pay as well higher salaries. That would be the perfect match.
Yeah.
But let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
uh,
I personally, that's a question
yeah.
that appears a lot of times, and it makes
Mhm.
completely sense taking under the context that we are living. But obviously we are suffering, and we are Portuguese, of an economy that for a long time has remained as in a non-competitive basis, especially because it was turned to the inside, to the Portuguese market, and not really to the international market like other companies
Very
have
true.
done. For example, if we look at what Ukraine has done in the last years before the war and what we have done to really export our tech, well, these guys have sold everything that they had almost to UK, Germany, US. So basically increasing their economy. So, but this is a huge problem because it's a structural problem. For example, one of the things that I always consider is that we are always in Portugal kind of telling good things about small and medium business. And that's okay. But the thing is that the percentage of small and medium business that we have sometimes prevents these same companies to have the dimension, the scale to compete in other markets. Okay, but these are very structural things. One of the things that I see Portuguese companies not doing, it's embracing, like you've said, Pedro, remote work, but not just for Portugal. Because what we are suffering is that we have talent that is good and it is cheaper completely than in other countries. And we are complaining about that, but most of the companies that are suffering from this talent shortage, they are not willing to do the same for talent in other countries that have a lower economy than ours and also good talent. So this is the globalization of tech work, and we have two choices. Either we close our country, and it's not possible. We are not living in those times, or we really embrace the game, and it's a challenge, it's an adaptation, of course, but there are ways, there are means to really try to fight this. And this crossing, this embracement of things, increasing the economy level, getting more competitive by getting better products and services in international markets that are richer than ours, and going for tech professionals elsewhere, I think that probably these are the things that we need most. Of course, there is some gaps that I feel in Portuguese companies that, again, it's challenges, which is the experience of really working in international markets or recruiting in international markets. Again, challenges. But the thing is, my belief, and I don't want to be a pessimistic, but that happens, always when these shocks occur, some companies die. And the ones that are able to adapt, survive, and get much better. The thing is that these are challenges, so we cannot just say and blame, these foreign companies are coming and stealing our tech talent.
It's part of the game. Yeah, it's
part of the game. Yeah. And the thing about embracing the game, I think it's the cultural change that we need most to really, we are being effed up. Okay, so let's see how we can do something to counterpoint this and to get the tech talent that we need, obviously, to be competitive. But then also increasing competitivity, having more money to pay people, and breaking the cycle where we have been. As I've told you, it's, to my opinion, incredible that the salary that I was earning in September 1999 as a graduate is still the same that's being paid to graduate today. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's incredible. So it's incredible. And the cost of living increased, right? It's not the same.
The cost of everything.
Exactly.
We have another question from Felix that asks, what's your recommended strategy to attract talents from abroad, considering the high income tax in Portugal? Well, I can answer this one, because we have this really cool thing, at least in the opinion of some in Portugal, which is called the non-habitual resident status, that basically creates a 20% stable tax over work income that I would love to have, but I'm not a non-habitual resident, I'm an habitual resident, and this is very competitive for people. Besides that, you can also have things like not having a wealth tax in Portugal. In Portugal, we don't even know the concept, okay? So there's no wealth tax. In Spain you have, in I think France you have, in a lot of countries you have. And if you like crypto or everything else, well, we have a very good legislation regarding, the taxation of crypto if you hold them for 1 year, etc., etc. So there are very good things to be able to attract these tech professionals from the EU. But again, why only the EU? There are good people everywhere. The thing is that,
exactly,
and the world is more open than ever, and people are more willing than ever, either to work remotely or to relocate. Obviously, different people want to relocate, different people want to work remotely from where they are. I can tell you that, for example, Portugal, in terms of the tech professionals that we have, has passed from being a country of immigrants to being the country of people that just stay where they are, working for companies abroad. So the huge flux of people, and Pedro, you witnessed that probably in the last crisis, in the subprime crisis, that emigrated. that went outside the country, and I'm talking just about IT people, not the rest, was huge. So these people now, they don't need to leave their social, familiar, personal life, their country, And there is interesting thing that we have found out in this report that we do. It's that the Portuguese are interestingly the population in Europe that is least keen to leave the country. And this is amazing for a country that, well, for you, the ones that do not know Portugal well, we are a country of immigrants. We have
exactly.
I don't know, 1/3 of our population is living abroad. And huge waves of immigration since ever. So this is a huge change. Remote has brought a huge change in these things, and I think that these changes are still happening. I think that we haven't seen the full range of consequences of what we have. But Pedro, what would you add to this question about how to attract foreign talent, especially from EU, facing the high income tax in Portugal?
Anywhere. So from anywhere, I think that NHR, the non-habitual residence, is like the top status that I think anyone will want. It's a flat rate of 20% on your income, so it's impossible not to like. Portugal is super sunny. People is nice. I think we do have a nice working work balance relation in terms of you can work during the day and go to the beach in the afternoon if you want, because we do have,
depending on the company you work for.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But yeah, I think it's the country is very good. So the cost of living is not high. It has skyrocketed a bit in the central areas, like the metropolitan areas, but in the rest of the country, the cost of living is fairly low compared to any Central Europe country or US or anything like that.
Well,
so yeah, I think it's very easy to come. It's also very well located, so very easy to go to Africa, to Europe, to US. It has a time zone where you can work for anywhere in the world. So I've worked, for example, for 4 years from Portugal to US from 9 to 5 in New York City time, East Side time zone. So yeah, it's possible, and there's a lot of opportunities in Portugal that someone willing to come here will enjoy for sure.
Yeah. So we have Nora Teglazi. I hope I said the name well. Sorry if I haven't. Saying that from my experience, level of English is amazing in Portugal as well. Well, let me just brag a bit about this. Yes, it's true. Compared to other countries, compared to others, we are not that good. But one of the things that my clients that come from other countries to open tech hubs in Portugal say is that when they compare the possibility of opening a tech hub in Portugal, or for example in Spain, which after the war in Ukraine were the two countries that were most considered in Europe to do that, they say the professional English is fine. Okay, there's this accent, but the communication is fairly good. The thing is, when you go out on the streets, the day-to-day, they will default to English when you try to communicate with them. And in Portugal, well, you'll see people doing impossible things, even if they are not very good in English to communicate. It's not just in English. They will try to speak French, Italian, whatever. And I think that this is a very good characteristic of us as a people, right? As a population, that makes living in Portugal, I would say, probably more amenable than in other places, because it's not just the work part; it's also, if people are in the other part. One last question that we have from Francisco is: what are some of the new challenges you have noticed by having more people going for the remote working model? For example, keeping team cohesion. I'll leave this one to you, Pedro. In such to do with hybrid work, in the remote, what are the impacts? Especially, I think that Francisco is noticing challenges, so negative impacts or possible impacts that you felt or that you feel.
I see. So my past experience probably influences a lot of my answer, because right after crowd process where we met, Pedro, I've worked for like 4 years or something remotely for US in a company that was remote for already 15 years, fully remote. there was they were fully remote from like 2005 or something like that. So I feel like if you have the right remote culture, the number it's the team cohesion can be worked on and improved and created for any level of expertise. So both for juniors, seniors, top management, you just need to really invest in creating this remote culture. And I've actually wrote an article on that, and I think like the top 3 things for remote culture are kind of communication, like over communicate always, like make sure you communicate, set expectations, like always set the expectations in terms of what you're doing. And the third one I'm not remembering now, but it's mostly like and just do what you have to do. And well, my daughter just popped in. I'm a
Yeah, remote work.
Yeah, exactly.
I have some of those also, so no problem.
Yeah. So it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's detrimental for a team, but I say that any team that can work through remotely, and they can welcome a remote culture, they will thrive both in remote and non-remote work. And I do feel that remote is here to stay. And the challenge now. Sorry, sorry, just a second. There's something. And I say that now we just need really to focus on the solution, which is embrace remote work culture and the team, and just make it an opportunity rather than a challenge or a problem. I see remote work more as an opportunity than a problem. Definitely.
Cool, Pedro. So you are passing your time and also
No worries.
addressing people. Just one last thing. What would be, one core tip that you would give to companies that would be considering creating a tech hub or starting from scratch in Portugal? Well, one thing.
So definitely contact Soft Landing for help, because they are super experienced.
This is not arranged, okay?
No, it's not. They know what they're doing, so they will help you a lot on both. I feel like you need to be very ingrained in the culture as well to know what you're looking for and how to look for it. And I think soft landing will help. The single top tip I would give is invest in local leadership to lead the team. I think that's probably one of the success factors in this thematic that we invested on, and it has paid off tremendously.
Seems like wise advice, my friend. Well, Pedro, thank you. Beautiful audience. Thank you also for being here, for watching this. It has been a pleasure, Pedro. Really, thank you for being here and sharing your experience. And well, passing a bit of time away from your daughter. So really, thank you for that. Regarding the rest, please, I'll leave my LinkedIn here. If you need anything, if we can help you with anything, please just reach out. You have the link to the report download. This session will be available on the same link in 30 seconds. Okay, so you can either rewatch it or share it with someone that you think might have interest in knowing it. And most of all, I hope that this has been useful for you. That's the goal of these webinars. Okay, so have a great day, have a great week, have a great life. I hope to see you again, you and more of your colleagues in these webinars. And again, any feedback that you have for us, it's most valuable. Even any ideas, anything really, this is for the community. Okay, Pedro, want to say something? Last goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great being here. Always welcoming. Thank you so much. It was a very nice chat.
Okay, cool. Bye, everyone.